On today's show, TJ Oshie retires from the NHL.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called the Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the news that broke on Monday in a press conference that TJ Oshie is retiring from the NHL. In my opinion, one of the greatest Capitals to ever lace up the skates. What is the legacy at number 77? We'll talk about that a bit later. The end of an era. What comes next? Listen, there are a lot of pieces that are peeling away from this team. Players, Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie in the future, Alex Ovechkin, and John Carlson. What is next for the Capitals? A bit later, I'll talk about Oshie's legacy on and off the ice. One of the most liked Capitals that I can think of. You know, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that has something negative to say about TJ Oshie. Just a really great hockey player, but in general, just a really great human being. We'll talk about that. But just to get it going here, the announcement. And we knew that there was going to be a press conference by TJ. And I was on another podcast, and they asked, what do you think the announcement was? And I mean, it's not too surprising that that is what direction I thought it was going to go in. I guess there is the possibility that he could have said that he, planned on pursuing his future in the NHL, as there were some beat writers around the NHL that saw a match with TJ Oshie. I saw a piece by the Golden Knights, for example, that said that would be a good addition to the Golden Knights. But not too surprising, as we know that TJ Oshie spent the final season under contract on the LTIR. A tough thing for a guy that is the ultimate competitor, a guy that, even not the biggest guy out on the ice, was never afraid of taking on some of the biggest players out on the ice. And, to see him live is to truly appreciate what he brings. And I say that, and I've said that before on this show, is sometimes it's lost, I think, on television, how dynamic a player is. But I've had the opportunity to see TJ a couple times from press row up on high, where you can kind of see everything lay out. And he saw the ice very well. Just, in my opinion, a great playmaker, a great teammate. The Capitals, I know they didn't have him last season here, but they're still going to miss him in the locker room and on the ice. As I guess there was a bit of a question about his future. Was there the possibility that he'd want to come back, would take an extension? But let's dive into that in segment 1, the announcement, and emotional. TJ was emotional, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not afraid to admit it. There were times, especially when they put the camera on Nick Backstrom and John Carlson, and he was getting emotional, and I felt like I could as well, because I think of all the memories between those players: Carlson, Backstrom, Wilson, Ovechkin. Some people could say, in my opinion, maybe one of the greatest eras in Capitals history. Of course, it's an easy conclusion to jump to because they did the thing that they had not done before, and that's win a Stanley Cup. And make zero mistake about it, TJ Oshie had a huge impact on this team and had a major impact on the roster and their ability to finally win a Stanley Cup. That, there were a lot of players on the roster in 2018, but he was definitely one of the key pieces that finally helped push the Capitals over the top and do something they had not done before, and that is win a Stanley Cup. But quite a moment on Monday night at Georgetown Waterfront. It was 7 years to the day, and the Capitals jumped into the fountain to celebrate their Stanley Cup. TJ Oshie stood up at that same spot. The symbolism and kind of the flashbacks, if you will, of, seeing them, all having a good time, splashing around. I remember Ovechkin and just all of them. It was truly a high watermark as a Capitals fan. And, especially now since it's been some time since, that they've won that, I think the feeling was after they won the Stanley Cup that it's just going to keep rolling, but you didn't realize how lucky in a lot of ways and how unique that group was in 2018 to do that and how huge TJ was in the mix. Now, this time, not as a champion, but as a retiring Warrior saying goodbye. And it was a cool ceremony, all things considered, that we saw Spencer Carberry, we saw Brian McClellan, we saw Chris Patrick, Backstrom, Carlson. It was just truly a great moment and a sad moment in a lot of ways as well. Oshie spoke for about 20 minutes. He didn't say the word retirement until the very end. And it's one of the things that, when I was watching the speech, he said that, when I was reading this back to myself, I didn't get emotional. But now that I'm saying it out loud, well, it's tough. And, Joe B and Locker were there as well. And Joe B was a great host of the show, if you will, that even when his papers got scattered, Joe B was there to help him. So just really a great core of Capitals, whether it's the players or the broadcasters, everyone associated with it. It was truly something. But from the moment he started speaking, you knew where it was going. You knew that retirement was going to come at some point. But I don't think that TJ wanted to dwell on it. I think that he knew where it was coming. It was just like he said his piece, and at the very end, he kind of dropped it in there, and that was it. I don't think he wants to dwell on it. I don't think that he's in love with the idea of retiring. It's unfortunate in a lot of ways. A premier talent, just based on injury and those kind of things, put him in the position that he's in. But like I've said on the show about Backstrom, now about Oshie, is that they put the camera on his wife and his children, and you kind of understand who they are as people. You got to remove the hockey player from the situation and say he's a father, he is a husband, and that is the most important thing in his life right now. He spoke about how his wife took the back seat to his hockey career for so many years, and how if it wasn't for her, kind of holding things down at home and being a really great support to him, that he might not have been able to accomplish all that he was able to accomplish. So just a truly touching moment, and to see the connection between Oshie, his wife, and his children, and and Backstrom was there, and Carlson. It was just a very emotional moment, especially as a Capitals fan. And then in true Oshie fashion, like I talked about, a breeze scattered the pages of his speech, literally mid-address. And, he was saying, I should have planned for this. I probably should have stapled them together. He was able to gather them quickly, even though Joe B's like, I got it. Don't worry about it, TG. He was able to brush it off, and everything was okay. Oshie just smiled, shook his head, and said with a laugh, quote, "First timer," unquote. I'm glad that he didn't let it rattle him too much. And, it doesn't hurt to be prepared, but, it was one of those moments that I think was a bit stressful for him, and that probably didn't make things any easier. He brought us all back to War Road, Minnesota, where it all started for him. And he thanked War Road, Minnesota as a great place where he was able to work on his game. And that is, in those small towns, and then going to college in North Dakota, that hockey was definitely in the cards for him from a young age. He also spoke about the support of his parents and his siblings as well. And finally to DC, where he became more than just a player. He became a symbol of perseverance. And, just a tough guy, not a tough guy in a fighter sense, but a guy that played through a lot. He was injured on and off throughout his career, and a lot of times battled through it. And, sometimes he would say to himself, I just need to stay in there for my team. That sometimes you could tell he was playing injured when maybe he shouldn't have been, but he cared that much about the team and the players that played around him. His emotional moments came when he looked at his teammates, Backstrom and Carlson. He couldn't hold it together. He waved to his kids. took sips of ginger beer to steady himself, and pressed on. And again, I'm not afraid to admit it. It was tough even watching that, just because you could see what it meant to him. He said, quote, "Today I will give all I have, for this moment may never come again." Let me say that one more time. It was very powerful when he said it. "Today I will give all I have, for this moment may never come again." Internalize that a little bit. Try to make the most of your opportunities when given them. Whatever you can apply that to in your life, you can tell that he definitely adhered to that. Now, with that, Oshie said, quote, "To all my friends, coaches, teammates, fans, and to the game of hockey, I promise you this: the moment my skates touched the ice, I gave you everything I had." There was never any doubt in me that was the case. After 16 years in the NHL, I'd like to officially announce my retirement, unquote. And quite a career, not only with the Capitals, but with the Blues. And again, I don't have to think about it for a moment. One of the greatest Capitals players that I can think of. I think that the Capitals will miss him. I think they'll miss his presence in the locker room, on the ice, and what he did in the community as well. Like I said off the top, not just a great hockey player, but a great human being in general. Sometimes you don't find both of those in a hockey player. TJ Oshie definitely exemplifies just that. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Oshie's legacy on and off the ice. I'll discuss straight ahead. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. And now listen, I'm guilty of it myself. Sometimes in a rush to get to work, so I grab for a snack, maybe some sugary cereal or a donut, something of that nature. And then I found Wonderful Pistachios, and I found a great replacement for that sugary food that I used to eat. And for me personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to snack. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in segment 2, the legacy of number 77, TJ Oshie, both on and off the ice. Like I talked about in segment 1, just a truly great person and a hockey player, quite the combo. Let's talk about his legacy, though. TJ played 1,010 regular season NHL games, 567 of those as a Cap. He scored 302 goals, tallied 695 points. He was an Olympian, a Stanley Cup champion, in many ways the emotional engine of this team for almost a decade. And one of the things that he mentioned, as well as when he came up on free agency as a Capital, he had a napkin and he came up with a kind of a fake contract, if you will, saying that TJ Oshie signed this for X amount of dollars and for this X amount of years to let Brian McClellan know that he was happy being a Capital and he didn't want to go anywhere else. He talked about how oftentimes players relish the opportunity that they can seek out the open market and, get the king's ransom. That I think for TJ Oshie, he was handsomely paid, but I don't think money was, an exclusive motivator. I think he loved being a Capital. I think he loved the teammates around him. It was evident. And sometimes those are things that are overlooked, that you think that just because you're a pro athlete, hockey's great, but give me the money. Listen, TJ Oshie is not hurting for money, but he made it quite apparent that he was happy being a Capital. But if you want to take a look at the back of his hockey card, quite impressive what he was able to do. Drafted 24th overall by the Blues in 2005, ranks among 2005 draft class. Only Sidney Crosby and Anze Kopitar had more goals in the 2005 class. Again, acquired by the Capitals July 2nd, 2015, scored 192 goals, 193 assists in 567 games. And the accolades and the accomplishments go on and on and on. I don't want to go over all of those right now, but suffices to say, he walked it, he talked it. And if you look at the back of his hockey card, well, it's going to have to unfold a little bit because the accomplishments keep rolling and rolling. And the thing of it is, and I'll talk about that in the final segment, is who are these next pieces that are going to be on the Capitals? He's not an easy guy to replace, but GM Chris Patrick said it best. He said, quote, he changed the trajectory of this franchise. We had great pieces, but he was the final one, unquote. You take a look at it when he was first acquired and brought to this team. I was familiar with him. I didn't know the impact that he was going to have. And to say his impact was, just a great impact would be an understatement. He changed in a lot of ways, along with the players that played around him. I'm talking Carlson and Backstrom and Ovechkin, these kind of guys, Wilson, that at one time, that was one of the best lineups out on the ice, in my opinion. But time flies. He came to the Capitals all the way back in 2015. I'm here to tell you, as a guy that is in his late 40s here, that it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. And there's a lot of truth to time goes a lot quicker the older that you get, because if 2015, that long ago, it doesn't seem real in a lot of ways. That team was on the cusp, but couldn't get over the hump. Oshie helped change all of that when he came here. His skill in the shootouts, something that we kind of forget about, but it was apparent, this past season where they didn't have a real shootout specialist. His grit in front of the net and his never quit attitude brought this team its long-awaited cup in 2018. And like I said, never a guy to shy away from any big guy, the ultimate competitor on the ice. Off the ice, Oshie was as impactful, a fan favorite, a community leader, and a teammate everyone leaned on. Tom Wilson said, quote, he hasn't taken a shift off in his entire career. And that's one of the things that you can say about TJ Oshie, is there was never a time where I felt like he was mailing it in. If there was ever a time that he was on the ice and I didn't think he was giving 100%, we found out after the fact that he was dealing with some sort of injury. And the very fact that he was playing at all at that moment kind of defied expectation. And he meant it. The injuries, they piled up. Back problems plagued him for years. We heard about how he had to fly his specialist in from Minnesota, that oftentimes he was in so much pain he had to urinate in a bottle. He couldn't sleep in bed. And those take a toll on him. He barely made it to the game time in Vancouver after an emergency chiropractor visit. He played anyway. So just in all the things he had to go through, a double ablation in 2023. In his final season, he missed 30 games, some due to concussions, but mostly his back. Because just of that, when you're the competitor, you're going to get injured sometimes. I think that he probably could have taken it a little bit easier on himself, but he's just not wired that way. And that's the interesting thing him with here. Like I talked about, the 1000th game, Oshie couldn't even finish the morning skate. The writing was on the wall for quite some time with Oshie, as that he was, heading closer and closer to the end of his career. And it's one of those tough moments that, it's too bad that, he had to spend his last season on the LTIR, but I don't think that was going according to script for him either. And then in the final playoff run in 2024, he fought through a broken hand in Game 3 and 4 against the Rangers. Fought through a broken hand. And then you see about all the players in the NBA that are grimacing when they have their calf is a little sore. That just speaks volumes of the toughness of TJ Oshie and NHL players in general. His quote, "A broken hand is like a hangnail compared to what I go through with my back," unquote. So that's what I'm talking about. That if you ever saw Oshie on the ice and say he didn't look 100%, it's not because he was mailing it in. He was just dealing with so much injury. So that's the tough part for Oshie, is that when we look back on it, that he didn't get to end his career as triumphantly as he wanted to. We know that he wanted to play out his final season. It just wasn't right. One of the things that he said is that before he played, because he was kind of non-committal about playing his last season, he said that he wanted some assuredness from his doctors or specialists that he wouldn't have to go through what he went through the last several years. And of course, they wouldn't be able to do that because hockey is physical. And TJ Oshie said that, in my day-to-day life, in the off season, when I'm not playing hockey, I'm pretty good. It's when I get back out on the ice and the toll it takes on your body to be an NHL player and play an entire season and then do it for as many years as he did. It's a testament to his strength, his resolve, and ultimately, I admire his motivation and for being able to do it for so many years. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the end of an era. What comes next? I'll discuss straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. So the end of an era. As I talked about to start the show, the key pillars of this team for so many years peeling away. And the next wave, the excitement, but also the sorrow, I guess, to a certain extent, is it was truly a great time in Capitals history. And it's something that I think maybe we took for granted is, take a look out on the ice right now. You see Backstrom assisting on an Ovechkin goal. You see John Carlson just being dominant on the blue line, Holtby and Wilson. It was truly a magical time in Capitals history, and TJ Oshie was at the center of that every moment. So let's talk about that in segment 3. What comes next? So, with Oshie's retirement, the Capitals officially close a chapter in franchise history, one that began in the mid-2010s when guys like Oshie, Backstrom, Holtby, and Carlson pushed Washington to the top of the hockey world. And like I said, to a certain extent, sometimes I think we take it for granted, just like the eventual time when Alex Ovechkin retires, that I think that we need to soak it all in, savor it. Everything vanishes is something I heard once, and it holds true to me. Now, Backstrom is gone. Oshie is retired. Ovechkin is chasing new goals off the ice as much as on it. So it's just savoring the moments that we have. I expect Ovechkin, Carlson to play the final seasons of their contract, and then we don't know after that. But truly a special time, and a change is afloat. So who fills in Oshie's shoes as a leader, a grinder, a power play net front guy? Tom Wilson, certainly a veteran now. But the young players that have stepped up and are going to be the future pillars. I'm talking Connor McMichael growing into a top 6 role, that a lot of these young players are coming along. Ryan Leonard, of course. That's the thing. The future is coming fast. You could also say Crystal in that mix. Mirshnashenko, that it's not going to be too long from now that we won't talk about Backstrom, Oshie, and these kind of guys. It will be the next page. It'll be McMichael. It'll be Leonard. It'll be Miro. Times are a-changing. And this moment, this transition might just open the door to a new identity for the Capitals. The Capitals are always going to need their pillars, and one of the key pillars will still be here in Tom Wilson, the future captain of your Capitals. But they still need other pillars and other players to rise up and take leadership roles. I mentioned Connor McMichael. Ryan Leonard has leadership qualities as well, a bit of a younger man, but a future leader on this team as well. It's also worth wondering what's next for Oshie himself. We saw him getting involved in broadcasting. I think he did a very good job at that. He expressed being very nervous, Guy knows the sport very well, could add some insight. I think that he could get involved in coaching. He knows the game very well. The world is his oyster. The one thing I know is he appears to have a great wife, a great children, and more money than he knows what to do with. He could just savor that and sail out into the sunset, or he could, keep going. I think he would make an excellent broadcaster. The broadcasters that broadcast with him said he did a good job, seemed like a bit of a natural. But again, coaching would be an interesting thing for him as well. We saw hints of that as well with Braden Holtby, perhaps. He's a smart guy, a passionate hockey mind. It wouldn't be shocking to see him behind a Capitals bench one day. Wouldn't that be something to have Coach TJ Oshie behind the bench? But for now, he's a dad, he's a husband, he's retired, and he's earned every second of that piece. So, again, like I say, he deserves it. It was, an award for a job well done for so many years is what kept him in the NHL. A vital player, one of the best players, not just for the Capitals, but the entire NHL. So here's to TJ Oshie for the hits, for the goals, for Sochi, for the cup, for the guy who never quit, even when his back gave out, for the warrior who gave everything and then some. Here's to you, TJ Oshie. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week, available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.